It's almost like they knew it would be her. How's it going, Sneeples? I'm going to be competing at the Pro Tour, and I am taking none other than Lexi herself here. That is going to be my hero choice, and the biggest reason why is because she... old man there. The fuseless Lexi list that I'm going to be taking has the ability to shoot about 3 arrows a turn, which is kind of insane if you think about it. And on top of that, every arrow represents a break point, which means you have to block 2 cards in order to block the arrow out fully. This makes it very hard for Oldham to efficiently block her out. On top of that, she has some on-hit effects to affect aggro decks such as Phi, and then she has a few arrows up her sleeves to hurt the Dromai as well. And then Icelander is really not a factor much anymore. But that is the reason why I'm going to be taking Lexi. Let's go into the deck itself. Let me show you guys what I'm going to be packing, and hopefully get into day 2 and all the way up to top 8 with. So let's go check it out. Alright guys, here she is, Lexi Livewire, Essence of Ice and Lightning. Well, guess what? We're not really running any of that. And once per turn action, turning a face down card face up. Lightning gets go again, Ice, they get a Frostbite. Again, not really going to be using that. But this is the hero. Let's get into what we will be using and how we are really using Lexi. Is Voltaire Strike Twice. This is an elemental ranger weapon, which is why we need Lexi in order to play this. This weapon is so good, being able to load at instant speed twice a turn, and then being able to give your arrows go again or +1, but mostly go again is really what you're looking at. This is so very good. It means that we can shoot at the minimal 2 arrows a turn with a good hand, but we're going to be looking to shoot 3 arrows a turn as mentioned earlier. So let's get into a piece of equipment that really helps to do that, and that's New Horizon. New Horizon here just allowing us to have 2 arsenal slots. And the reason why this is so big is because our game plan is to shoot our arrows and have 1 left over to put in the arsenal, and then we are able to flip that over and then load up again with Voltaire. On the next turn, load up our 2 arrows for that turn, shoot them twice, and then shoot the arrow that we loaded up last turn at the very end. And then rinse, repeat. We'll put our last card down to our arsenal, do it all over again. And that's how we get about 3 arrows a turn, and it's thanks to New Horizon. Now let's go over some of her other equipment that is just as important. Let's go over this one real quick. We all know it, Fiendel Spring Tunic. Yeah, just kind of a necessary piece of equipment to have in most decks, and the reason is just that free resource. We are also running the Bullseye Bracer. This is to help for those really explosive turns, especially turns that Rain Razors are around on. It has Arcane Barrier. It's our only piece of Arcane Barrier that we are running, and yeah, it's just a great card to extend a little bit more, to maybe shoot your 4th arrow off. Snapdragon Scalers, that same reason that we run Bullseye Bracers, the same reason we run this card, because it just helps to, shoot that 4th arrow off. It helps for a bigger explosive turn, and it's a card that we really like to use on a Rain Razor turn. And then finally, us being Rangers, we are now privy to Quivers, and we are going to use the Quiver of Abyssal Depths. We'll have it in each matchup, but truly the matchup we use this on the most is more control-y matchups, and allows us to extend just a little bit longer, which is ultimately kind of what we need in order to secure the game. So that's it. That's all the equipment. She's always going to be running all this equipment as her main. There is no other equipment to side into, and that is how this Lexi deck runs. So now this deck is all arrows. Okay, it's not all arrows, but it is a overwhelmingly amount of arrows, more than it's ever been for Lexi. So let's get into those arrows. Okay, I'm going to introduce the red 0 cost arrows first. and that is Bolt and Shot. Lexi has always liked Bolt and Shot. Even Azalea really likes Bolt and Shot. Being able to go again just from getting the pump, which you can give with the bow to give it the +1, and then it will give itself go again. There's the pump option. And then it has a reload ability, which can really help to shoot your third arrow if you didn't start one in the arsenal already. So Bolt and Shot, very, very good. So good that we are also running yellow. This is our only yellow arrow in the deck, but it's just too good to pass up. It comes in for 3, but when it gets +1, it comes in for 4. So it's meeting that break point. And that's what I talked about in the beginning, is break points. All our arrows will come in for 4 or 5 to be able to meet that break point. Okay, next up, a very important arrow to have, especially when you're going against Olam, and that is Drill Shot. This is a 0 for 4, but it's almost like a 0 for 5, because if it hits, you put a -1 counter on a piece of armor. I even had games against Kano where this -1 counter on their tunic actually really mattered. So it does come in affect every hero, but obviously if you can put a -1 counter on the rampart of the ram's head, that is so big. And yeah, that's what Drill Shot allows us to do. It's a 0 for 4. That's also very nice. Okay, next up is Endless Arrow. This is a card that came out in Arcane Rising, so you would think associated more with Azalea, but truly Lexi can run this card much better. It is a 0 for 4, but if it hits, you get to put it in your hand. So it allows itself to keep coming back. And this is one of my favorite arrows to just have at the end an arsenal and then flip it over and then just shoot your 2 arrows for the turn, shoot this last. And if it hits, put it back at the end. It's really great. 0 for 4 with a very relevant on hits, always very nice here. And on a side note, this is a great dragon killer when you're facing Dromai. You can still shoot arrows at their face and just end the turn with shooting this at a dragon, because all it has to do is hit. It doesn't have to hit a hero, it just needs to hit. Every time you hit a dragon, this will go back in your hand. So very good little tech for Dromai with that card. Okay, this next arrow is a new arrow that we got from the Outsiders set, and that is Falcon Wing. A 0 for 3, but that has go again on its own. So we can, with Voltaire, give it the +1 option, so it then becomes a 0 for 4. It having go again is very nice. We do want go wide arrows, and that's what this allows us to do. This allows us to, if we had it from a previous turn in our arsenal, we can just shoot it out. It'll have it go again. We don't need to, have this be the last arrow to hit. So very cool arrow. Glad it got some play. I was seeing it in Riptide decks, but Azalea showed it no love for good reason. But now we see that Lexi is playing it. Okay, next up, this is Pathing Helix. This is sort of my pick of the arrows. It's a 0 for 4, and if it hits you and you have no cards in your arsenal, you may put a card from your hand face down. It doesn't have to be an arrow, it could be anything. It's basically saying reload without saying it. Yeah, it's a very good, especially when you have your 3 of a kind turn. You want to shoot as many arrows as possible, but unfortunately Voltaire only lets you load up twice. So this allows you to load up once again. So that is why I really like Pathing Helix, and again, 0 for 4. Okay, our last 0 for 4 here is Searing Shot. Searing Shot is a 0 for 4, but it's a 0 for 5 if it hits, because they lose 1 life. And so if you put a 3 block on this, they'll end up taking 2 instead of just the 1 damage. So it really has an awesome breakpoint in that regard. So really like Searing Shot quite a bit for this deck. So those are all of our 0 cost arrows. Now let's get into our 1 cost arrows. And yeah, these are pretty big. So let's start off with Heat Seeker here. All right, so Heat Seeker is a must-have if you play Lexi, or more importantly, if you play New Horizon, because when it hits at the beginning of your end phase, put the top card of your deck face up into your arsenal. With New Horizon, that allows you to have a face-up card, and then you can take your last card from the turn and put it in face down. It allows you to have the 2 arsenal slots This allows for a big turn, basically a 6-hand turn, 2 in the arsenal, 4 in your hand, and that can get real explosive, especially if you put some rain razors in front of it. If this happens though, and you end up just having 2 arrows in the arsenal, no worries. That's ultimately why we play these Snapdragon Scalers. These are big turns and they're worth having. So Snapdragon Scalers can help keep those turns rolling. But yeah, Heatseeker is so good. All right, next up, we have another new card from Outsiders. Obviously, you have to play this if you're playing Ranger, and that's Infecting Shot. It's a 1 for 5, but with a Blood Rot on hit, it becomes a 1 for 7. That's obviously very good value. Gotta like the new tokens that she can give out, and Blood Rot's one of the better ones. So yeah, Infecting Shot, very big. Oftentimes demands blocks. Okay, next up, I have a few arrows that mostly are on the sideboard for certain matchups. The first one here is Withering Shot. This is for the mirror match, really. Withering Shot helps to create that Frailty token. And a Frailty token, especially against the mirror, can basically be 3 damage. You know, if they shoot 3 arrows from the arsenal, then you're saving yourself 3 damage. So that's really nice. So then it becomes a 1 for 8 in a sense. But yeah, very good in the mirror. Good against Dash, who shoots the pistol. And yeah, that's what we have it here for. Next up is Sleep Dart. Sleep Dart is a very good card for this meta. A lot of the top heroes, except for Oldham, really rely on using their ability, including Lexi herself. She needs, if you put an arrow face down, she needs to flip it open to get that second arsenal slot. Lexi's ability allows us to do this, but if you take it away, then she might just be stuck with a 1 arrow turn. So this is a card that she generally has to block. This also affects like Azalea and Bravo to prevent them from having dominated attacks against you. So a very good card to have against those heroes. Finally, we have Remorseless. Now, Remorseless is kind of more of a main board card than anything, but a few matchups will come out. That's because it's on hit, says for every time they attack or play an attack action card, or just an action card, I think actually. So every time they play an action card, they lose 1 life. Well, when you're going against like Oldham or even Bravo, that's not going to do much. But against like aggro decks, when they're trying to attack you like 3 times a turn, or even like Azalea, who like puts 2 pumps out and then attacks you with an arrow, that's another 3 damage. So then this can be like a 1 for 8 against the right type of deck, which is obviously very good value. Okay, so those are all of our red 1-cost arrows. Now let's finally get into our blue arrows, and these have to be really decided because you don't really want to shoot the blue arrows, so they better be good if you do shoot them. Bullet Shot here, again, has the opportunity to do a reload. Unfortunately, with its plus, it becomes a breakpoint. All these arrows that are blue are going to have breakpoint, or are not going to be able to have breakpoints. So I'm sorry, I said it becomes a breakpoint. It doesn't become a breakpoint. It just is very easily blocked by 1 card. But it does have the reload effect if it happens, and so it almost forces it to be blocked. And if you're going to shoot a blue arrow, you kind of want that to be the case. You don't want them to just shrug at it. Next up, because of how important Drill Shot Red is, Drill Shot Blue can be seen as equally important. Again, this could be a 0 for 3 if you count putting a negative counter on as a point, which I do. And it's, again, very good against Oldham, and it's one of those cards that is demanding to be blocked, otherwise getting punished. Next, we have Infecting Shot. Infecting Shot Blue. This can be a 1 for 5 if it hits. Obviously, that's very good. If it's one of those things where, you know, you don't have an arrow in the arsenal and you can only like shoot twice, you can give the +1 to make it a 1 for 4. Then it becomes a breakpoint that almost really demands a block because otherwise 2 more damage is coming its way. So Infecting Shot Blue is a must-have. Next up is Searing Shot. This is one of the more annoying cards. I've cut this card and I put it back in just because I needed a little bit more blues. And so this is where I'm back at. It's a 0 for 2, but it's kind of a 0 for 3 on hit. But most times just kind of annoying card to block for opponents. And then we have my Spice, which is Withering Shot. I think a lot of Lexis will run Headshot, which makes sense If it's put face up, it becomes a 0 for 4. Or a 1 for 4 in blue, which is obviously like that's good. That provides a break point, but it's a terrible arrow to end with. Well, Withering Shot has an effect that can, as mentioned before, could be a 1 for 6. It's pretty good in the mirror and good against dash. I expect to see a lot of the mirror, so I do want to have more cards teched for that than other matchups. And so those are all of our blue arrows right there. Now, this deck is not just arrows. This deck has other attacks that aren't just arrows. So let's get into those as well. And one of the cards that's probably more spice for me, but I really do like it, is Death Touch. It's a 1 for 6, only blocks for 2, and can only be played from the arsenal. But honestly, this card is not too hard to get working. As you see, we have a lot of codexes that can help put this guy in the arsenal to attack with, as well as just shooting off, your 3-arrow turn and just ending with putting this guy in the arsenal is very, very good. No one wants to see a Death Touch because if it gives them a Blood Rot, it could be a 1 for 8, or circumstances could, frailty or even inertia. I like this card a lot. I bring in a lot of matchups because of the versatility of the on hit, and it's just coming in for 6, so it's very, very big damage there. Isn't a break point, but does demand 2 cards to block. And then finally, we have Down and Dirty, another new Outsiders card. This is only for the Dromai matchup. Being able to block from Arsenal when it's a popper is actually really cool, which means that if this is our last card in hand, we can put in the Arsenal and still have the Phantasm popper all at the same time, which is very nice to do. Definitely just for Dromai here. All right. Now let's get into the final portion of this deck, and that is the non-attacks. And we got a little bit of them, quite a bit of new ones. And the first one is Codex of Inertia. Codex of Inertia is really just a Lexi type deck. We haven't seen any other Rangers or even Assassins use this Codex, but it works very well for Lexi because most of the cards in this deck are arrows. Most of the cards are arrows, so there's a good chance that the top card of your deck being put down into your arsenal will be an arrow that you can fire off. It makes your opponent do the same deal, and maybe, depending on the matchup, they might not want to put a card in their arsenal. They might, actually get messed up because of that. Maybe it's a red pulverize in arsenal and you're Bravo and you can't move that worth a damn. So it could have an effect like that, and then it gives them an inertia counter, so if they cannot play their arsenal, they just lose it completely. But yeah, definitely just a Lexi card as of now. Next up is another just Lexi card, really, and that's 3 of a Kind. Azalea really just can't make this work as well, but 3 of a Kind is very good to have with this deck because we're just looking to load up most of the time. We have mostly arrows in this deck, so the chances are we'll draw 3 arrows that we can use to load up and shoot multiple times. When you're playing this card, make sure you try to have an arrow in the arsenal already because you want to try to shoot as many arrows as you can on a turn. 3 of a Kind really helps to do that. Now, speaking of, setting up here, Rain Razor. If you can set up a Rain Razor with a 3 of a Kind turn, you are probably going to get some good damage in that turn. Rain Razor is giving all your arrows +2. We do see Azaleas play this, but they really only do it as a 0 for 2 as a pump. Lexi gets to really get extreme value out of it, being a 0 for 6, shooting arrows 3 times, making a Rain Razor just so good. On Rain Razor turns, this is where I kind of like to go Bullseye Bracers to get the maximum value out of the Rain Razors. But yeah, a very good card to set up with, especially with a 3 of a Kind. All right, so speaking of good cards, let's get into Codex of Frailty. At this point, we all kind of know that this is one of the premium cards of Outsiders that any attack or any assassin or ranger is just happy to have. It's a staple for those classes. And it's because being able to choose your arrow from the grave, so being able to basically tutor up an arrow of your choice and put it into your arsenal and then just shoot it, meanwhile forcing your opponent to do the same and having them discard their cards, so having one less card to block with, is so very good. I love going Codex of Frailty and putting a Death Touch in the arsenal and then, putting or attacking with the Death Touch. But if I have no resources, putting a endless arrow or a drill shot or even a searing shot in can really help make or break the game for the opponent. Next up is another card of mine that I really like, and that's Premeditate. And this is probably because I originally was playing Azalea, and I really liked what this did for Azalea. And so when I saw the chance to be able to play this in Lexi, I really took onto it. Being able to give all your arrows the on hit of creating a ponder token is very nice, especially the more arrows you shoot. And then it gives your first arrow a pump, which is very, very good. So Premeditate, I think, is a very nice addition to the Lexi deck. Okay, so coming up on the blue, this is the only elemental card we play. It is an ice card. It is Winter's Bite, forcing the opponent to discard a card or pay 1. This is our only like non arrow and like nothing that like pumps at all. Like this is our most bland card, but we still have it because it is a blue, and in clutch situations it can help us win the game. And even against like hyper aggro decks, doing this as well as flipping it over to give them a frostbite and then playing this is almost like taking 2 cards. So very, very good card to have for those aggro matchups. Finally, speaking of cards to have for the mirror, Frailty Trap. I have 2 of these for the mirror just to give a frailty token on defense. This essentially becomes a 0 for 6 since it blocks for 3, and then the frailty can make -3 or -1 on their 3 arrows. So a very good value card. Only running 2 because I just want to mostly be proactive and not reactive as Lexi. But sometimes if you're in the mirror match and your opponent just goes off with Rain Razor and a 3 of a kind before you even get any one of those cards, if you have a Frailty Trap, that saves a lot and sometimes can just help, bring the tempo back your way. So, all right, that is Lexi. That is the Lexi deck that I plan on taking and competing with at the Pro Tour. I feel very good with this pick. She is a Aria hero, so I'm happy that I get to play her in that regard. I love all the Aria heroes. I love the whole set itself. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope that, if you're competing that you do well, but don't beat me with this deck. Keep on fabbing, and I'll catch you on the next one and probably have a vlog video about it all. So catch y'all later. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you like this shirt or the others we have just like it, we sell shirts and keychains and more to come. Go to fleshandbaubles.com, enter the promo SNEEP, and you get 10% off your entire order. Some really cool stuff, some really cool gift ideas. We would really appreciate your help supporting us. Thank you.